Good morning, everyone. Okay, so this morning we'll be talking about VPC endpoints, gateway connectivity. So this topic is actually a very important topic in AWS, especially in terms of VPC connectivity, because sometimes the reason why are we doing VPC endpoints? The reason why we are doing VPC endpoints is that you can't expect all your traffic to pass through the internet. Number one, you are incurring a huge cost of amount for data transfer in and out your internet gateway. You're also causing a kind of a latency going through the internet. So, for example, now you have other AWS services that you need to connect with. You still expect yourself to go through the internet? No. For example, you are using an SQS or Amazon simple email service, or you are using Lambda, or you are using S3 buckets. So you can't expect your traffic to transfer to the internet before getting to S3 buckets. And all these services are not even publicly exposed services. So that's why VPC endpoint comes in place. It's very, very important, especially if you have a workload, the production setup on AWS, because you'll be integrating with a lot of AWS services. You have S3 buckets there. You have Amazon CloudWatch. You have SQS, Simple Queue Service. That's something like Apache Kafka. I don't know if you've worked with Apache Kafka before. So that's a replica of AWS, which is something we call Simple Queue Service (SQS). So, for example, you have an application that gets triggers or that gets topics from the SQS. So, if you want your EC2 instance to reach that SQS, you can't go over the internet. So, how do you ensure those connectivity across those AWS services? That's why AWS endpoints comes in place. It's very, very important. You can't afford not to understand it. So that's why today we are going to explain the VPC endpoints. So what we'll be doing today, we'll try to understand what VPC endpoints mean, AWS endpoints mean, and you have two types. You have the gateway endpoints and the interface endpoint. So we're going to try some use case scenario for the VPC, for the gateway and interface endpoints. So what is VPC endpoints? VPC endpoint is the endpoint that enables us to connect privately and securely. Those keywords are important, without exposing your traffic to the public internet. You want to access your S3 bucket, you don't need to go to the internet before you can access this. Maybe you have an application running on an EC2 instance, and maybe like for example now, there's some application that you might need to generate a thumbnail picture. Maybe when people upload their picture to your application, the application will take it in, and from there it's going to generate a thumbnail. From that thumbnail, it's going to put it in a storage location. So let me come again. S3 is a storage location on AWS. So it's called bucket, means that it can store a lot of things. It can store a lot of things. So that's what we call S3 buckets. It can store a lot of things. Buckets, and it can store a lot of things, and it's called objects. Objects can be anything, can be MP3, can be MP4, any data formats. That's what we call objects. So I've said it before that Netflix actually uses S3 buckets. We also have a lot of companies that uses S3 buckets. So you can use S3 buckets for a lot and different things. So that's that on that. So I'm coming to the practical application of using VPC endpoint. So you are generating a thumbnail maybe after the person updates or upload his own picture. So how do you want your application, your EC2 instance, to connect to your and be able to dump or put those pictures there. So that's a use case. That's a use case. Or for example, you have an application that needs to send an email to people whenever they sign into an application or they upload something to an application, maybe like an entry form or anything. So there's an Amazon services as it's called Simple Email Service (SES). So this SES, you need to connect with it from your EC2 instance. So instead of going via the internet, you can securely connect to it. And the reason why you are securely connecting to it is that, first of all, you are limiting your latency period. You won't have, because it's still coming in within the AWS network. And AWS network, they've already invested in their network. Is a very low latency network. Very, very low latency network. So all the services are interconnected together, running at a very high speed. So you don't need to go to the internet before you now come to it. And some services that are not even exposed to the internet, especially the interface endpoints, something like your SES, your SQS, your and all of that. So you need to privately connect with them. So that's the reason why we should have our VPC endpoints. And it's divided into two. We have the gateway endpoints and we have the interface endpoint. Gateway endpoint, you can only choose two services. Number one, S3 buckets. Number two, DynamoDB. If you have an application that you write and read from DynamoDB, instead of you passing through the internet to be able to reach your DynamoDB, you can create a VPC endpoint. Or you have an application that talks to S3 buckets. You, instead of going through the internet, you will create a gateway endpoint. So gateway endpoint is only available for two services. We are planning to write AWS exam. Note all what I'm saying. Note it very well. So gateway endpoint, you can only apply it for S3 buckets and DynamoDB. DynamoDB is the non-relational database on AWS, something like MongoDB. Key value pair is not relational. It doesn't have ACID properties. I hope you all know what's called ACID properties. So that's for database. Don't let us put into that for now. So that's gateway endpoints. So interface endpoints is only used for services such as SES, Simple Image Service, Simple Queue Service, CloudWatch, and all of that. So all those services, there are a lot. So it's something we can browse, and it's something you can see on Google. Just put it there. So, but the only but there is that it's only S3 and DynamoDB that gateway interface endpoint works with. The other ones work with the interface endpoints. Are we getting my explanation? Are we together? So if we are together, can I get a thumbs up? So that I can proceed to the next page. Okay. All right. Interesting. So interesting. So let's do this page. So the first one is the gateway endpoint. Gateway endpoints. So now let me explain something to you. Gateway endpoint, we said that it only works on S3 and DynamoDB. And another important thing is that we would try to practicalize it. We would work on an EC2 instance in a private subnet. It doesn't have NAT gateway, it doesn't have internet gateway, it cannot reach the internet. So from that guy, we are going to we'll create what we call a VPC endpoint and attach it to the EC2 instance. So we'll be working on something that doesn't have access to the internet at all. It won't have internet gateway, it won't have NAT gateway, so it cannot reach the internet. So from there, we are now going to implement the gateway endpoint. So the gateway endpoint is using the routing mechanism, the same way we have our routing table. So it's just going to update the routing table. That's what the gateway endpoint is. So there is something we call a prefix. A prefix is a list of public IP or a list of IP address So there is a prefix list for S3 bucket, because you know S3 bucket is exposed, is an internet exposed service. So there is a list of S3 prefix, like a list of IP address for S3. So that's what we're going to route on our route table. So the gateway endpoint uses the routing mechanism tables, while the interface endpoint uses the DNS resolution mechanism. We're going to get to that. But I'm just trying to point the core factors, the important factors into this scenario. So this gateway endpoint we're going to use is using the routing mechanism, and I've explained that we're going to use it, we're going to implement it using a private subnet, a server that doesn't even have internet gateway, doesn't have NAT gateway, so the guy cannot see internet. So we'll now try it and ensure that we will be able to communicate to an S3 bucket, get something there, maybe upload something there, anything, we can do it. So we'll be eliminating that gateway, we'll be eliminating internet gateway and VPN. That's one, sure. And as well, we'll be using the route table. We're going to see that. And this guy is free of charge. So you only pay for data transfer. So, but use it maybe instead of paying for your internet gateway and all of that. So this guy is just, you won't pay for any service at all. You just be paying for the data transfer rate. That's only the thing you'll be paying for. So this is just the steps. So I'm going to share my screen now, log into my AWS console, and give us and do what we call like an implementation of this, like to see how this actually works in view. So there's someone who wants to join the group. Can somebody add him? Either John or Temitayo. I think you have contributor access. You can add that person. So this is the steps to create a gateway endpoint. So you create your VPC and all of that. So this is steps. So don't let us go to theory. Let's go to the practical. So let's see what it actually looks like while creating a VPC endpoint. So you know I told that the VPC endpoint has two types. You have the gateway, you have the interface. The gateway only works for two services, S3 buckets and DynamoDB. And S3 bucket is a storage service on AWS. You update pictures and give you the scenario, what S3 bucket is used for, and how are we going to do it here. So now just follow me along. So let's log in and okay, sorry. So I'm trying to get my MFA. So let me see, 272. It's 99. So interesting. So now let's try a new thing. So let's go to one of our VPC, maybe any of them. So let's create a server in so we can choose any of the VPC. That's still good. Let me change the region. I think let's use EU West. EU West one. Why is this slow like this? It's a bit slow. Okay, so let's change the EU West one as island. I think that's where we have our database, VPC, backend, and all of that. So let's check it out. So our VPCs. So now I think we have backend, database, and web app, right? So um, let's let's try and do something. So maybe the backend VPC. So let's create a server in in maybe backend. Let's use backend, or any of it, or web app. Let's try to use backend. So you can use any of. I'm just trying to paint the scenario, like the implementation of the VPC endpoint. So what we want to do actually achieve is to create a server in a private subnet. So what does it mean to create a server in a private subnet? It's not going to have a public IP. Are we getting my point? So and it won't be able to reach the internet. So that's what I mean by that. So let's create new tab. So let's use backend. So let's talk that okay, this backend wants to get to S3 buckets. So let's do that. But I have a question. I'm creating this guy in the private subnet now. I get to my point. And this guy doesn't have access to the internet. How am I going to reach it? I need a very quick answer. How am I going to even log into it? Can somebody give me a scenario? Like, how do I do it?
Yeah, you can, like, is in the private subnet, like how to reach it. One way is to create like a bastion host, like create like an EC2 instance in a public subnet, then enters
Okay.
into it from that EC2 instance.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that. So exactly. So I think we've even said this thing in our last session. When we want to implement the bastion host. So we said that it's just like a jump server. You know, sometimes in your company or your organization, you can't access production directly. So you need to come through maybe like a Windows server or something. They call it jump server. So that's what your bastion host means. So now let's assume this guy is our bastion. Let's rename it as bastion. Bastion backend. So these are bastion. So instead of me creating a new EC2 instance for bastion, I just rename the one that I have before. And let me just action or states. Let me start it back. I'm starting it. Let me launch a new one. So this new one is now going to be the backend app server in the private subnet that wants to use. So let's say okay, it's going to be backend private server. So let's make it let's use Amazon image. You can use any image you want. Just feel like I should use Amazon image to micro. The same big GPU we are using. So you need to change the VPC. I think we all know this, right? So backend VPC, and we're not putting it in the public subnet. It's going to the private subnet. So let's check private. Let's put it private A, and we are not assigning a public IP because we don't want to reach it over the internet. We don't want these guys to have access to the internet. So it's going to be disabled. So select existing VPC is going to be. Let's just select um, SH remote because we just want SSH access. So let's select SSH remote. This security groups, it only allows SSH and none of that. So that's what is security group. I think we're all good, right? Okay, can you all hear me? Are we together?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So now let's create this guy. So the first server that is the public subnet, that's going to be our bastion host. Why the one we just create now is our real private server. So what wants to do is that wants to log in to the private server. So let's do that. Let's check if this guy is going to come up instantly. So while that one is working on, so let me take you to S3. So S3 is a regional service. Is a regional service. You know, we have regional service, we have global service. Can someone tell me 2 examples of global service in AWS? I've said it before in this session. Anybody there? You get my question? 2 examples of global service in AWS.
CloudFront is global.
Are you sure CloudFront is global? Are you sure CloudFront is global? Any other person? I think Tim Dyer mentioned CloudFront, but I'm not sure CloudFront is global. Any other person that wants to try?
I am.
Yes, I am is a global service. Yes, I am is a global service. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
Route 53. But I think CloudFront is actually global. Yeah, CloudFront is global.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, Route 53 is also global. So thank you very much. So, but we have a lot of regional. By start regional is a lot. So among regional, we have S3 buckets, we have the EC2 instance and all of that. So we have a lot of regional service. So thank you, Bowie, thank you, Temtai, and thank you, Magdalene. So now let's create a bucket. So we just create a bucket. So this is a bucket, it's a regional service. So you need to pick the region. So let's name it a name. What's the name? Let's call it our demo endpoints. So let's just create it by default. Let's just do it by default. So all these ones is something I would look into. It's going to be a project. I have a project here for yesterday. Don't worry. I'll say anything on it. But let's create a bucket. This is how you create a bucket, and just basic. So let's try this name. In your naming, it needs to be unique. So let's see if nobody has used this. Let's change it because somebody might have used it before. So it has to be unique. Let's use demos container. And it has to be unique, and yeah, it has to be unique, or else you just see a blocker that you can't create it. So create our bucket. Interesting. So this is our bucket demo dash container. So this bucket, so from this application, our web server, we'll try to update it. We'll put something inside it. Maybe we'll create we'll have a picture or something, or create a file, and we'll push it inside this guy. Inside this S3 bucket. But our server, let's check if our server, can someone help me to add the person back to the group? Someone on the trying to join. Let's see. Okay, as the person joined, it's not joined. I've put this guy to open to all, so I don't know why people are trying to. Okay, I think I've opened it to all. So let's continue. So let's check our system. Is it up now? So our instance, I think let's refresh it. Yeah, I think it's up, right? So interesting. This one is up, but this other one is not up. So now let's log into the Bastion backend. We want to have access to the internet. Let's log into it first. So let me copy the public IP and use my PT session. Okay, so let me put the public IP. I have a session already. Let me just load it. Just load this guy. I load it and I change the public IP. I've showed you last week that I just saved this put session, the private key and all of that is there already. So let me just open. So Ubuntu is username. Ubuntu is username. Why? It's refused our key. What's happening? Okay, I think maybe the key has an error or something. Let me check again. Let me check the key name that's here. What's the name of the key name? So you want to check the key name, just come to the EC2 instance, you'll see the key name somewhere around here. It's webinar. Okay, let me check my SSH. Check it here, SSH, authentication, credentials. Okay, I think it's yeah, it looks like maybe I import the wrong key, so I'm on the server now. That's my screen. So it looks like I imported the wrong pen file. So that's something we might need to notice. So if you import the wrong pen file, you might not be able to have access. So now let's try if we can ping this guy. If we can ping the new one, the backend private server. Let's see if we can ping it. And let's get the IP. The IP is 2.53. So let's try to ping. So yeah, we can ping it, right? That's fine. So we can ping this other one, the backend. So our focus is the backend. So now let's try to SSH into the backend. So how do we SSH to the backend? So can anyone give me what to do? Any idea? Anything? How do I SSH to the backend? So it's two ways. I can import the PEM file here. So if I import the PEM file here and at the end of the day, I will just use it as a PEM file to get here. Yeah. Or let me show you something. And come to connect. If you click on connect, there is a lot of situation here. So you can use EC2 Instance Connect. So this one is only visible when you have your server as a public IP. But if it doesn't have a public IP, you might not be able to reach it. So that's number one. You can use Session Manager. Session Manager is like an AWS service, like something private. It's agent. It's like an agent that you can use. So you can use SSH clients. This is one as well. And the last one is you can use CI console. So this is what we've been using normally before. This Session Manager, maybe in our future something you can just try and see. This Session Manager is actually very interesting. So it's a service in AWS. You attach it to the EC2 instance, so and you'll be able to access it directly from the GUI. And the last one is Instance Connect. It's only this one is only achievable when you are using it from the if you have a public IP attached to it. So I think I don't have any choice. Let me just try and get the PEM file first. So I'm going to put the PEM file on this server here. So from there we'll be able to SSH. So let me try to get the PEM file. So nano let's say key.pem. Let's so demo.pem. Nano is like a nano editor. Nano.pem. And I have yes. So I've actually pasted. So we are very good with Nano before. So I've pasted it. Control O for output. You enter and Control X to add. So ls-lhr. So just to see. So might need to change the parameter. We are talking about Linux now. So this is, can somebody tell me the mode permission for this demo.pem? A very quick one. What is the CH mode? Fastest answer.
I think is this 640 or so. I think it is. I always check around what is it called? SSH client. That's why I always check the CH mode.
No. I'm talking. What's the CH mode of this guy? Of the one I highlighted now. Can you all see my screen?
Oh, okay.
What's the CH mode permission number for this file I highlighted now?
You see the mode calculation.
6. Sorry, I can't see your screen again.
I've highlighted it though. Okay, somebody mentioned 6.
Yeah, I think that's
read and write.
66. No,
664. Yeah.
Yeah, 664. But it's very slow. You should have it's so slow.
Yeah.
The response was very slow, but you got it actually.
Yeah, 421.
So what? So R read means 4.
4, yeah.
Write means 2, and the last one is execute. Execute is 1.
Well, yeah.
So if anyone that is written there, just get the number 6416. Just put like that. So that's how it all works. So this one is 664, and based on the recommendation there, they said change your CH mode, your permission, to 400. You get, so we need to now change this guy from 644 to 400. So we just do CH mode. This CH mode is like change modification, change mode. You also have change ownership, change 400. So 400 means that it's just going to be read only on the user end. It might. So maybe we'll try to have a Linux class one day. So this, the one or one on the file, one to create it, the default one is 644. 644, I've explained it. Read is 4, write is 2. Read is 4, write is 2, and execute is 1. So if you don't have anything, then if you see hyphen there, so it doesn't have that value at all. So you just calculate it based on the value you have. So we are changing this guy from 644 to 400 based on what AWS mentioned here. Let's just change it. chmod. So let me repeat the folder listing again, the directory listing. So you can see that the permission here has changed. As you can see, it has changed from this to read. So it's only read that it has now. So this guy, if I said 644 400, each item, each value represents a permission for each user. Number one is the group. Number one is the user. Second one is the group, and third one is the other users. So if I said 664, the first 6 is that, okay, the current user, which is Ubuntu, it has read, write, but no permission. The second 6 means that, okay, the group is the column. This column here, the first column is the user. The second one is the group. So the other ones, which is the last one, is not always shown here. Do you understand? But this first column, this column here, this here is the user. This one where my cursor is the user column. This second one is the group. Sure, you understand? So the other one, you can see it here. You might need to check some other properties on Linux so that you will see all permissions if a particular folder has. But on this directory listing, this hyphen here means this guy is a file. Assuming you see D is a directory, but if you see hyphen here, that means it's a file. So the next 3 values is now the permission: read, write, and execute. So that's how it is. So Linux is very important. There is no way you can't avoid it. And these are the basics of Linux, Maybe I'll drop some videos on the chat on the WhatsApp channel so that we can try to revise our Linux skills, because it's a very, very important. So now, since I have my pen file now, so what I'm going to do is I'll just write this command. I'll just copy this command and paste it. So I should be able to access the private server. Yes. Oh, permission denied. What happened? Okay. Is this like we don't need to put, this is a Linux machine. We don't need to put that colon there. So just SSH -I. Let's put, the name. The name is webinar.pen. I was using demo, so that was the reason.
Yeah.
So let's change it. So I just changed the name of the pen file, something. So fine, we are there now. You can see that we are there now. So we are in the private app server. So we come through from our jump server into our private server. So now let's try something. Let's ping Google. I'm very sure it cannot work. So why is it not working? Because this guy is a private subnet. He doesn't have access to internet. So how can we now make it to talk to how can we make it to talk to our S3 buckets? So that's when the VPC endpoint now comes into place. Are we all getting it? It seems I don't know. It seems very quiet. Are we together?
Yes. I'm
No. I want people general response. Are we together? Justin, Timoteo, Bowie, Magdalene. Are we all good? Are we together? Yeah, Tawakal too. Any other person there? Are we good together? Are we following? Okay, so we can see that we can access internet. So internet is not reachable from this guy. So let's stop it. So the next thing we can now do is now let's create our VPC endpoint. So we want, maybe we have an application running on this guy. So we want this private server to be able to access our S3 buckets privately and securely. So that now brings up to what we call the VPC endpoints. So now let's go to the VPC endpoint. So we have our VPC here. So we just come here by your left side. You come here, you come to endpoints. So you create endpoints. So let's call it our demo, or let's call it backend endpoints. Backend S3 endpoints. Let's put it down here. So what are we connecting to? Is an AWS service, right? Okay. So you can see that there is a lot of endpoints that you can connect to. Load balancer. There is a lot of endpoints. So that's why it is getting very, very interesting. Like AWS is just popping up new service every time. So you have a lot of services here. So you just come here and just think of, okay, let's put S3 buckets here. So you can see that we have a lot of S3 here. You can see a lot of S3 outposts. So outposts are like rack outside AWS data center that is within or close to your environment. That's outpost. Maybe you also connect to an outpost S3. So that's a service name here. So any S3 that wants to connect with, you can see that I'm seeing S3 as a gateway and interface. So there are scenarios where you use S3 as a gateway. There are scenarios where you use S3 as an interface. But in this instance, we are using S3 as a gateway. We are not considering this interface because it's for a different use case. So now let's call it. So we will now pick the S3 that is a gateway. You can see that the type is a gateway, right? So now let's pick it. So which VPC are we using? We are using backend. And you get my point. So which route table are we using? You know, I told you that the gateway endpoint uses a routing mechanism. So it's going to automatically update the S3 endpoints on, it's going to update them on the route table. So now we pick the private route table. That's where, you know, we are on the private subnet. So the next one is that we'll now create so we'll create a policy group. A policy group is an IAM policy group that specify, okay, this endpoint, what does it, who wants to reach it? You know, I explained IAM in the last time. I told you that we have authentication and authorization. So IAM speaks majorly on authorization. What can you access? So who wants to access this S3 bucket? Is it based on which particular, what's the principal name and all of that? But for now, let's just give it a full access, right? Let's give it full access. We can generate an IAM policy here, but for now, let's give it a full access. So I think we are good. Let's create endpoints. So guys, that we have successfully created our endpoint, right? So that's fine. But the last thing is that on AWS, this S3 bucket, this EC2 instance, will not be able to reach the S3. So we need to create an S3, an IAM role. In our first session, I explained an IAM role. Our IAM role is attached to a service. Instead of attaching an IAM to a user, you attach it to a service. So that service will assume the role. So we want S3, this EC2 instance to be able to access S3 buckets. So we are going to create an IAM role and assign it to that EC2 instance. Because by default, services on AWS does not communicate. You are the one that needs to give them the right access to communicate. So they don't communicate by default. So we need to create an IAM role. IAM roles are assigned to services. You know, IAM users and all of that are you users, right? But if you want your EC2 instance to access an S3 bucket, a CloudWatch, and all of that, you need to create a role and assign it to that EC2 instance. So that's what we're going to do now. So now let's create an IAM role. So on the search panel, you click on your IAM. This IAM pronunciation service for me, I call it IAM, so people call it IAM. So let's come to the role. So please, if you don't understand, call me back. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. So let's create a role. So what's the role? So what we want to do? So we want to create an IAM role. So we can even check a one. Let me go back. Let me just come back. Cancel, continue. So we can check for S3. It's not there. So now let's create a new one. Let's create a new one. So we want to create, so allow an AWS service like EC2 instance and all of that to perform actions in this account. So we want our EC2 instance. So which use case we want to give it, allow EC2 instance to call AWS service on your behalf and all of that. So this is what we want to achieve. We want EC2 instance to access an S3 bucket. So that's what we want to do. So this is the guy that wants to access. So next is going to ask, okay, which permission do you want to give this guy? Let's call it S3 full access, S3 full access or something. Amazon S3 full access. I get my point. So next, so let's give it a name. Backend, backend S3 role or backend S3 S3 access. Don't mind my this thing now. Maybe I just let me just oh, some reason. So do you all understand what I'm saying? So this is how the trust policy works. You can see this is an STS. This is secure token service or something. So it's just going to assume this is the principal. The principal is the one that wants to assume that role, which is our EC2 instance. So what was the guy trying to access? The guy is trying to access an S3 bucket. So now let's create the role. So we've successfully created the role. Interesting. So once we created the role, now let's come to our instance. So this instance now needs to assume the role. I get my point. This particular instance needs to assume the role. So that's why we'll just come here and click on this guy. This is the server, right? You click on actions. Are we all together? So we are trying to assume this instance is trying to assume the role. So this is how role works in all AWS service. Either CloudWatch, Lambda, any service. This is how it works. I get my point. So once you understand what role means, you know it already. So let's try to check. I think we have it already. Yeah. So let's update IAM role. So we're trying to update our IAM role. Now, so let's come to our server. AWS S3 LS. Can you see now that we can access S3 buckets now? So now let's try to create a file. Let's create a file. So now before going there, let me show you something. Let's go to the VPC. To the VPC, you will see that the route table will be automatically updated. Now let's see. Where is the backend private route? The backend private route. That's not be automatically updated. Why? It should have been automatically updated by now. So now let's come to this. It should have been automatically updated.
Oh, you need to reload the page. Can you try and reload the page or something?
Yeah, let me try. So can you see this is the back end? So the route has been done. We've also associated it to this route. So now let's the route should have been automatically updated by now. So now let's come here. It might take a while, but let's try and see. So while we are waiting for the guy to be automatically updated, so now let's come to this to the server. Let's create a file. Let's nano let's call it file.txt. So it's okay, AWS. So I'm just trying to put up a file and we'll try to copy it to the bucket service. So we are creating a file here. Maybe it can be any file, it can be even a picture and all of that. So let's try and create something and we push it to the bucket. Same thing that we'll try to get something from the bucket as well. So now let's AWS CP file dot ls. Okay, so okay, sorry, AWS S3 CP, AWS S3 CP file dot txt. So and you put S3. So this is how your S3 bucket needs to be. So S3 what are S3 buckets?
Demo. Yeah, I think it's on the console.
So demo hyphens on C. No. So and the last thing is that you put the region. EU. Next one. Can you see? Upload file text to. So it shows that we've uploaded it, right? Interesting. So now let's come here. Check. So let's try to load it and see if, can you see? We already have our file here. So this shows that we've been able to connect to our S3 bucket directly from our private server that doesn't even have anything. So let me try to open it. I'm not sure I can open it via the internet, but you can see that our file.txt that we just uploaded now, we've been able to get it here. So same thing, this is how all these applications, maybe you want to push something to your bucket. A lot of developers work with these features a lot. Maybe when they have to do with S3 buckets, images, pictures, and all of that, push it from their server, push it to S3 bucket and all of that. So this is an important service. I'm not sure I can access it. And this is what we just upload now. You can see I just upload this guy. It was on my terminal before, and I was able to publish it to the S3 bucket using the gateway endpoint. So that's how the gateway endpoint works. I don't know if you have any question. So and as well from this guy as well, I can let me see AWS S3 LS. So these guys are AWS CLI command. So from here, it can do a lot of things. Maybe I have a video or anything, or I'm processing some data processing files and all of that. I can just put it there and send it. After processing it, send it to my S3 bucket. People can download their report from there and all of that. So this is one of the advantage of gateway endpoint. So Next week, because of time, I'll be working on interface endpoints. So we'll be looking at how this server can as well speak to simple email service. So we'll be able to push like an email service or notification service or SQL service directly from this server. So that's going to be our engagement in the next class. Thank you everyone for your time. And I don't know if you have any question. If you have a question,
there's actually no question from my hand than to say a very big thank you.